Hey friends, it's Dwight. Welcome back to my studio. This is my studio with some of my art. And here's the space that I'm going to be working on today. It's going to be a 24 by 36 canvas. And I'm going to do a basic swirl pour with about 4 or 5 colors. I'm going to use a couple of blues, a red and orange, and a white. So we're going to get started here in just a couple of minutes. I will show you the paints and we'll get started with this great swirl. Okay, hold on. Hey guys, it's me again. So I decided today with the pour I'm going to be doing in a few minutes here is I'm going to show you how I mix my paints. I get a lot of questions and I try to explain. I write out the formulas. I talk about them in my videos. So what I thought I would do is just try to get my camera as close to my cup as possible. Just mix the paints as I would normally mix them and show you how I do that. So I'm probably going to do a voiceover on this. So we're going to get started here in just a second. Okay, here we are back at the canvas, guys, and here is my 8-ounce cup I'm going to be using today to mix this particular red color. So more recently, I've enjoyed being able to make my own colors by mixing my own paints, and that's what I decided to do with this red. I added a little bit of this metallic red from Got a Deal, sort of on the pinkish side, but then I decided to add some Artist Loft Soft Body Red just to make it a little bit more rich and just a little bit more red. So then what I do is add just a little bit of Liquitex pouring medium, as you can see, just a little squirt in there. And then I go ahead and mix in my Floetrol. Now I pre-strain my Floetrol. It's in that cup that looks really dirty, but the inside of the cup is nice and clean because I use these cups over and over again. So here we are, just mixing things up. I remember stopping for a moment thinking it's a little too red, so I wanted to add a little bit of a deep brown, just a couple of little blips in there to show you. There you go. Just to kind of deepen it up. 2 drops, that's it. There we go, sort of a nice, more rich red. And it doesn't take a lot to change that color. Now next I usually add my water. Once I get everything mixed up. Again, it looks like it's in a dirty cup. It is on the outside, but that's my water cup. I use it over and over again. So I'm just mixing it up to show you. I want to make sure also when you're mixing up, especially if you start with paint on the bottom of your cup, you need to make sure that you scrape the bottom and sides because what you want to do is make sure that you get all of it up. So I do strain my paints because I do get lumps. It takes extra time to do another cup, but it's worked really well and it saved some of my compositions from being sort of messed up there with what I call caterpillars, like lumps. Again, just checking the consistency, adding a little bit more water. In these dump and swirl type pours, the consistency is really important. I know I've shown them in other videos. The point is you want the paint on the drizzle stick to just go right in. You don't want it to sink, you don't want it to mound. So it's quite thin. There we go, thumbs up. Okay guys, so I'm gonna double check everything and we're gonna get started here in just a moment. Hey guys, it's Dwight for a quick announcement. I made a mess, I made a mistake, so I scraped my canvas and I'm starting over. It happens, dudes. Sometimes it goes really well, and then sometimes you just make some careless mistakes, and that's what I did with this. So I'm basically using the same colors. I'll show you in just a second. I'll flip the camera around. Although I took away the orange and added an extra cup of white. I wanted this to be brighter. And I'm still gonna do the dump and swirl. I'm just not quite sure how I'm gonna do it yet, and that's the way I'm gonna keep it. I don't wanna overthink it. Okay, let me show you what I have for paints to start this pour. Okay guys, here we are. This is what I have for the new pour. Now I know this looks a little blue. That's because I just used the same strainer that I did with one of these other colors there. So it's just basically white with a little bit of tint of blue. That's a turquoise blue I made with, again, yellow, blue, and white. This is just blue out of the bottle. This is Artist Loft Soft Body Red with a little bit of the brown that I mixed with before. And there's the white. And over there all by itself is the dump paint. So I'm going to try this again. I will start with something light on the bottom and then just pour and pour and pour on top of that. Okay guys, hold on and we will figure this out and we'll get it done. Okay, now that we got everything sorted out, let's get started with a quick hello with my blue hands. And as we started, I know I wanted to start with something bright on the bottom, so I started with that white, with a little tint in it. I wasn't quite sure what order I was going to do the colors after that. I just started picking up the colors and started pouring. I love that turquoise up against that deep red. I think it's a beautiful color combination. So I'm, again, put some white there to create a barrier, put the blue down. I didn't want the colors to mix all that much, so I wanted I was going for some like rings, and we'll see how that turns out. I don't know if you notice up at the top there, I'm sort of holding the canvas. It seemed like the paint was moving towards the upper right corner. So I was just sort of holding it up slightly to slow that down. Again, just pouring the rest of the cups. And the splash of that red. So I will admit that my swirling was much to be desired this evening, doing this pour. I just wasn't quite sure sort of where I was with things. I didn't know if I would tilt too soon, too much paint would go off the page, so I was just sort of tilting it the way I normally do at that point, off one end, down the other, and then bringing it back. And so after I get it over this edge, if you notice, I bring the painting up and back sort of in the opposite direction that I was tilting so I can get the weight of the paint more towards the center of the canvas. You can start to see the color is starting to come through. I'm going to be getting up to put it on time lapse, and you'll see how things just sort of explode. And this was about an hour, a little bit more than an hour, I think, of it sitting there, but I thought it looked beautiful with the soft colors and the brightness around the negative space. Okay, so what we're going to do here in just a moment is we are going to do the wet walkthrough, and we'll see more details. Hold on. Okay, guys, here we are with the initial wet walkthrough. It's been sitting here for about an hour, I believe. It's really kind of beautiful. These colors are fabulous. I'm really happy. And yeah, just kind of go over it. I'm holding my phone tightly because I do not want to drop it. I love the faintness of the red. However, I've got some red pearls in the middle, which I'm going to either highlight. Yeah, I'm going to highlight those. I'm not going to take them out. Negative space is great. Clean up the edge like I always do. Maybe trim a few of these, but nothing significant, just to make them more round at that particular point. Okay, looks good, guys. Let's let it dry overnight, and we'll take a look first thing in the morning. Okay, guys, I'm walking in the morning here. It's still a little wet because I did it last night, so it hasn't had a full even 12 hours yet to cure. It moved a little bit at night, not a whole lot. Composition is still the same. I am going to trim up a little bit the edges and a few pearls and clean up the negative space, make it look crisper and sharper, and I'll talk more about that. So yeah, this is just an intro to that. I'm gonna let it dry. I put my space heater on over there, and I will come back and I will probably do a time-lapse video of me editing and cleaning up the negative space because it's gonna take me a while. I've got some fine details to work on. Okay, friends, I'm gonna let this dry. I'll be back to the canvas in a little bit and we'll get started. Hey guys, real quick, before I do touch-ups, I wanted to just talk to you really briefly about why it's important to do touch-ups. I have shown in a few galleries, which I'm very appreciative of because it's not every day that fluid art makes it into some galleries. But what I learned from one of the gallery owners is that it's really important to make sure that if you're doing fluid art, since we know it's fluid, to make sure that when it's finished, that it's crisp and clean. So that's why I go in and shape my pearls, or I trim back a little bit if they're sort of elongated or wonky. I want to make sure that the pearls that surround the negative space are clean and crisp. That makes the painting sharp and clear. especially with that black negative space. So just something to think about if you're going to present a painting to a collector, to a gallery, or for a festival. Just make sure that the finishes are the best you can get it and as clean as possible. So I don't go in and do anything on most of the canvas. It's usually just around the negative space is where I focus. So that's what we're going to do in just a couple minutes here. I'm going to get started, trim things up. I got a lot to do with this painting, even though it doesn't look like it, but we'll show you before and after, and we'll go from there. Okay, friends, here we are back. I am fast motion cleaning up this canvas. So I mentioned previously, I just want to go in and I want to clean up some of these pearls, make them crisper and sharper around that negative space. I debated whether to dot the red pearls, but I decided to leave them as is. And again, I just sort of cleaned up some of the edges around some of the pearls, make them a little bit more round. And yeah, guys, here we go. Let's look at the dried finish results. Okay, guys, here we are. I'm back. I am completely done. I cleaned up the edge and just cleaned up some of the pearls. I didn't take really anything out. I just rounded things the best I could to make it look a little bit sharper and neater. Like I'd mentioned previously, it's really important to make sure that you have some sort of crisp finish, especially if you're going to have a negative space or any edges. So I just go in and I clean up things that look like little shadows, little half cells, things that are really wonky. I just took one out that was right over here. Other than that, I just sort of rounded things. I didn't make them completely round because in fluid art, things aren't always perfect, but I think it fits nicely with this painting and composition. So I'm gonna move in and show you this painting up close so you can see the details. Okay, I think we have it. And we'll see you real soon, guys. Thanks for stopping by. Again, if this is your first time, please subscribe. It's free. Share, like. If you have any questions, you can ask me in the notes below, or you can email me at dwightpours@yahoo.com. Have a great rest of your weekend.